Say what? What's up, guys? I got a sweet little deck tech for you. Chant of the Daya. I wanted to give y'all this deck tech. Well, I guess I should do what I always do. Go through the deck really quick, just in case you really don't care. Or if you want to reference this video for, like, if you forgot and you want to build it like Headcase does, this is it. This is how I'm running it. So, I've been wanting to give you this, like, seriously, within the first 2 weeks that this game was out. I just couldn't. There's so many different ways to run it. You can run, like, an exploration build with, like, 1,000 land, and it can be viable. This is what I eventually landed on. It's really good. It's not tier 1 material, but it is. This and Dodge or Burn are my two favorite decks to play because they're so much damn fun. So, as far as the meta goes, and as far as how I feel about the deck, this is the best way to run it, in my opinion. You can run it different and have just as much success. However, if you want to run HK's build, this is it, and this is how I run it, starting off with 25 land. This deck likes land. Land is almost never a bad draw. But, yeah, so I'll run 25 land, 2 green sun zeniths. They're just, you know, cost 1 more than your normal creature. Go get whatever the fuck you want. And I only run 2 Eldrazi. It does not get your Eldrazi. I've forgotten that more times than I care to admit. But it does give you Palaka Worm when you really need it for 8. It gives you Terracodon when you need it for 9 mana total, converted mana cost. P-Titan, Primetime, a lot of the times. And it also gets the only elf that I'm running in this deck, which I'll get to for 5. Which I'll get to here in a bit. 5? Is it 5 or 4? Actually, I think it's 4. It is 4, isn't it? Not the only elf. This also is the Elf Shaman. Great start to the deck tech. Farhaven Elf, yeah. That's 3. So for 4, it sometimes gets Farhaven Elf, which I'll get to in a bit. Coney Heart Expedition, this is absolutely ideal to have in your opening hand. It's not all that great late game, although mid game it can still be pretty good if you have like a prime time out. Yeah, you can successfully have a prime time out effectively, efficiently, normally mid-game, and Calling Heart is really good in combination with Prime Time, just for the simple fact that it thins your deck if you don't even need it, you know? Thins your deck, gets you drawing spells. I run 3 of them. Tangle, this card is sick. This card is like Fog on steroids. This card will absolutely turn around games that they overcommit to their attack step, Tangle in response, and all of a sudden they're like, I have made the worst mistake I could possibly make against this deck. I tapped out. And remember, when you're playing against this deck, especially in the mirror, and this build, I guess I should say, is not all that great in the mirror match. But keep this in mind in the mirror. Don't overcommit to your attack steps. Keep the Tangle in mind. Moving on to all 4 Rampant Growths. This helps you feed any land drop. It helps you feed Grazing Gladeheart. It helps you get to your Primeval Titans naturally. It helps you fuel your Coney Heart Expedition. Run all 4 of them. Rampant Growth. Pretty staple mana ramp since its introduction in like 1940. Grazing Gladeheart, I love this guy. I only run 3 of them. I can see you running 4. I can see you cutting a Rampant Growth for Grazing Gladeheart, actually, because you pretty much like him every single game. You want him every single game. You want him on turn 3. I leave back a Rampant Growth just to cast a Grazing Gladeheart so I can gain the 2 life from Rampant Growth a lot of the times. This card will help you win games that you should lose 100% of the time. Grazing Gladeheart is a shit. It's also really good against Dodge and Burn. Although this deck is semi-effective against Dodge and Burn anyway, gaining life like against Firewave, Grazing Gladeheart is the nuts. Any aggro deck, which is like pretty much the rest of the format, Grazing Gladeheart is amazing. Farhaven Elf. I'm the most proud of it. Like out of my entire build, I'm most proud about running Farhaven Elf. I only run 1, and I got into situations where I had a Coney Heart Expedition that was exactly 1 counter away from getting active, and I had Green Sun Zenith in my hand, and I'm like, I know it sounds specific, but it actually comes out way more than you would think. I had Green Sun Zenith in my hand. I'm like, what could I have 4 lands, like what could I go get? I don't run anything that can go grab me a land. That's where this comes in. Farhaven Elf. I run a singleton. And, like, even if you don't have, like, that specific situation, Farhaven Elf is a chump blocker and a Rampant Growth wrapped up into 1, you know? It's still a good card. I don't run them, but I think it's worth running 1. Just like I said, it's not a dead card ever, and it helps fuel Coney Heart, and a lot of times, not a lot of times, but sometimes Green Sun Zenith targets it, goes and gets it out of your berry, gets you that crucial land. Oracle of Daya. This is the heart and soul of your deck. You run all 3 of them. I'm guessing they give you 3. I just trimmed this from that 100-card stack that I did a while back. Yeah. Okay, so they give you 3, run all 3 of them. It's one of the best cards in your deck. Who cares if they see what's coming? A lot of times it's inevitable. Sometimes it screws you that you reveal the top card, they can see what they're playing into, and they play around it. That is the worst part about this card, but it's still just absolutely insane to run. You may play an additional land. I'm running 25 lands, which is just a slightly higher percentage than something like 23 or 24 for a land to be on top. And don't be afraid to shuffle up your Calmly Heart Expedition just to see if you get a land off Oracle of Moldaya. Moving on, Harmonize. This card refuels your hand. This is what this deck needed the entire time since its inception. It needed more All Is Dust, which they eventually gave us, and it needed more Harmonizes. I would love to run all 4 of these because on turn 4 you're not really doing a lot. Well, on land drop 4 I should say. That's not necessarily turn 4. Actually, that's almost never turn 4 that you're laying your 4th land, or that you have 4 mana in play. But Harmonize is awesome. Regrips your hand after you like spent all that shit on Rampant Growth and Grazing Gladeheart. Like I feel like mana ramp decks, mono green mana ramp decks, they always like just play out all their big spells and then they have like 1 Primeval Titan and then Doomblade, and then you're just screwed for the rest of the game. Harmonize helps you refill your hands, hopefully with bombs, if not bombs, then like Tangles or something else to get you through to the later turns where you can cast shit like this. This is our bomb suite. Look at that jump in the mana ramp from the mana curve from 4 to 6+. We have 0/0 drops, 2, 9, 4, 4, 0, 5 drops, and then 16 6 drops. These are not 6 drops. These are 3 and 4 drops. You know, I don't know how fast you can Primeval Titan out. Definitely faster than you could otherwise. How about that? Primeval Titan is like your mid game, get you some more lands so you can afford your bigger stuff. Primeval Titan's one of the most essential cards in the deck, alongside Oracle of Moldaya. Run them. Run all you can get. 3 of them. And it's a beater. 6/6 for 6. Trample. Vigor is nuts because it's just nuts. 6/6 with Trample, and then like it makes all of your creatures like semi-indestructible. I guess they are indestructible, huh? No. Just if damage will be dealt to them, put a +1/+1 counter. But if they are destroyed, obviously like Doomblade still kills it. Of course, if you have a Vigor out, more than likely you're targeting Vigor with your Doomblade. I would venture to say run Vigor. He's awesome. I heart Vigor. Summoning Trap. Okay. You're already a little bit resilient to Dodge and Burn. I love this artwork, by the way. You're already a little bit resilient to Dodge and Burn. So Summoning Trap is nuts in like the Mind Maze and Dodge and Burn matchup, but it's nuts anyway. They go to combat. This is when you cast this. If they're not swinging with creatures, then you cast this for 6 on their end step. If they do have creatures swinging in, like say it's Abys's Glory, they're swinging in with their Champion of the Parish, which is like a 5/5 on turn 2. You know how that goes. And so you cast Summoning Trap as soon as they declare attackers. Go get your Primeval Titan out of the top, what is it, 7? Top 7 cards, and then you go to block steps and you can block with that Titan. I don't think a lot of people realize that because I never see them do it. But yeah, Summoning Trap. If they're not swinging in, do it on the end step. You get a bomb. I mean, at worst you blank, obviously, but at worst you get like a Farhaven Elf. Which, I mean, at least it's not a complete blank. Like, this is an enter the battlefield effect, so you don't have to actually cast it. Does Summoning Trap put it on the battlefield, or you cast it? Look at top. Yeah, you put. So you don't actually cast it. Okay, moving on to Avenger of Zendikar. This is my favorite green creature of all time. Did you hear what I said? This is my favorite green creature of all time. Avenger of Zendikar is the tits. 7 mana, so at worst, I find myself playing this a lot of times with 8 mana on the battlefield, cast it for 7, and get that land drop from my 0/1, so then all of a sudden you have 7 1/2s. Like, if that doesn't put you back in the game, you're going to lose anyway. Alright, moving on. Avengers Zendikar. I can't talk about this card anymore. This card's amazing. Run it. When I saw him, this was one of one of the very first, what is it? Unlocks that you could have with this deck. Was it the unlocks? Man, I can't even think of the term. Anyway, this card is awesome. Run it. Palaka Worm. I run 2. I think they offer 3, right? Yeah, they offer 3. I only run 2. It's really good. It's a 7/7 with Trample. When it dies, you draw a card. More importantly, you gain 7 life. Sometimes you have to search for this with 8 mana to go get Palaka Worm so you don't die the next turn. And it helps you get into games that you would otherwise lose. I say that a lot in my deck techs. Run those kind of cards that wins you games where you would otherwise lose. You need to take a second look at those to see if they would actually be good in your deck. Palaka Worm, run 2 of them. I love them. They're 7/7 beaters too. Tooth and Nail, one of the best cards in the deck. 9 mana is honestly not that hard to do. You want to cast Tooth and Nail for its Entwine cost for 9 total 85% of the time. You can cast it for its regular, like if you're in a bind. You can just cast it for 7, go get 2 cards, right? But if you can Entwine this insanity happens. And I think anybody that's ever played with this deck or played against this deck knows why. All is dust. Here's the removal package. I know it costs 7, but 7 is not even that big of a deal. 7's like 5 mana or maybe even 4 for some decks. 7 mana is. It's colorless. Yeah, I know I'm not running a bunch of colorless, so it targets your stuff too, but this is just like, this is like your go-to turn whenever you can get 7 mana, basically. Usually, you're in bad shape, you lose the next turn, all is dust, kill all their shit, and hopefully you have like an artisan out, but you know, that's ideal. That usually doesn't happen. This is also why my deck is not that good in the mirror, because I'm not running a whole bunch of Eldrazi spells, and all is dust kills me. But yeah, I run all 3 of them. They're amazing. It costs 7, but you don't care that it costs 7. Terracodon, super good utility card. It's a 9 mana. I wish this card also had Trample. Maybe that's asking too much. It's really versatile too. Like, you can cast Terracodon, blow up an O-Ring to go get your Primeval Titan back. You know, stuff like that. You can also blow up their lands if they're, you know, they're 1 mana off, or maybe like in the mirror. Terracodon's pretty good. Or you can blow up your own lands. If you have like a bunch of lands, like say you have 14 lands and you top deck a Terracodon, you can cast Terracodon, blow up your own lands, doesn't matter at all, and you put what? 18 power on the board for 8 mana. None of it's trampling, but it's across 4 different creatures. Insanely good. I run 1, I ran 2 for a while, but I figured it only needed 1 after some playtesting. So we top off our curve at 9, which is actually fairly low for this deck. Artisan of Kozilek. There's like, they kill your Primeval Titan early game, as long as it's not like a Path to Exile or something like that. Guess what? You get to go get it back with Artisan. It has recursion for your big ass bombs. When you cast Artisan of Kozilek, you usually win the game. Usually. All right, so we're moving on. That is my 60, and this is actually finishes off the decks that like I consider my babies. These are cards. These are the decks that I keep my deck tech close at heart. I wanted to make sure it was right because I'm most fond of the deck techs that are out right now, including Chant. Moving on, like I usually do, I'm not going to talk about cards too much. Only cards that are like really important that I feel are maybe controversial. Starting off with Eye of Ugin. Eye of Ugin is really good. It's almost even worth running Eye because you get to tutor up for Eldrazi spells. Or really specifically colorless creatures, but you only have Eldrazi as colorless creatures. Eye of Ugin's really good. I can even see it almost being playable in my deck. Running that just to go get Artisan and Kozilek. I decided that if you start with this land in your hand, it sucks. And it doesn't tap for mana, and it only helps you cast Artisan and Kozilek, that's it. And it helps you tutor for Artisan. So I decided not to run it. That's actually fairly controversial. Scoop Bomb's pretty good. I just, not good enough. Exploration, in an alternate version of this deck, you can run like literally, I don't know, 30 land. Like, I didn't play test it all that much, but I would say like 27 to 29 land. That's the kind of hand you want. I mean, that's the kind of deck you want to play if you're playing Exploration. But besides that, it's just not worth it. It's terrible as a top deck. Vastwood Hydra, never run it. I'm already running, like 4 is just too much for Colony, so I'm not running that. Explore, actually, my friends actually, I have to take a sip of water, hold on. My friends actually make fun of me for Explore because, like, I said back in the heyday, I was like, dude, it's like a green Time Walk. Because if it's a mana ramp deck, all you want to do is draw a card and lay a land. It's a green Time Walk! And, like, they made fun of me forever. Like, green Time Walk was, like, a funny thing. And in our little kitchen tabletop Magic group, they made fun of me. Green Time Walk, because I ran this in, like, every green deck. I used to love green back in the day, too. Anyway, that's enough about Magic history as far as head cases are concerned. And anyway, Explorer is just not good enough in the deck. It's really good card. It's a really good card. If you run it, I say run it just because I love the damn card so much. It just didn't make my cut, unfortunately. I wish it would have. I'm surprised I'm not even running 2, but I'm not running any. Grazing Gladeheart, you can see you're running 4. So if you're running 4, that's fine. I'm only running 3. Farhaven Elf, I've told you about why I don't run any of them, except that one, right? I think. Fierce Empath just isn't as good. It is a tutor, which is usually nice, but I hate it every time I cast it, so I cut it. Rites of Flourishing is this one that each player, you don't want him drawing cards to get more answers for your stuff. You're already having enough problems as it is dealing, you know, on your own. So Vengevine, not going to talk about that much. Vengevine's an incredible card, just not in this deck. Elvish Piper, dies removal, moving along. Into the Wilds. At the beginning of your upkeep, I mean, I could kind of see you running this. I don't like it. I don't like it. It's dead if it's not a land, right? So, hate it. Not going to run it. Woodborne Behemoth, not good enough. Spore Mound was in the deck, but I think the meta has shifted enough that it's not worth running it. Dramatic entrance is not good enough, although it is really good. You're 2-for-1ing yourself. Oh, not 2-for-1ing, but you're like discarding a card. I'm just not a big fan of it. Plow Under is one of the most exciting cards that I wanted to play with when I saw it in the deck list for this game when it was coming out. I just can't find room for it. It's really good. It's an extremely powerful ability. It affects the board in a way that wins you the game, but if you're behind and they already have a good board state, Plow Under sucks. So Bountiful Harvest is not near good enough. Don't run it. Gaia's Revenge, the infamous TEK game where the TEK Devolver game where Gaia's Revenge became super relevant. TEK raped me with it. It can't be countered, so it's good against the counter decks, but it's just not good enough. Like, maybe if it had Trample also, but 5 in the ass, like, there's so many things that kill it. Like, a couple creatures takes down your 7-mana guy. I don't know. It's a great card. I just don't run it. Block Worm, I'm already running enough. Trastodon, already running enough that I want to. Ulamog's Crusher, I don't like that it has to attack each turn if able. Eldrazi Conscription. Oh, man. I was super apprehensive about making this deck tech because I'm not 100% sure that I should not be running Eldrazi Conscription because it's banana sandwich. This card is so good. But I mean, trust my build. I promise you I playtested with it. I just didn't like it. I tried 1, I tried 2, I tried 0, and I like 0 the best. So that's what I'm running. I can see you cutting this. You know, pick a card. I don't know. Run Eldrazi Conscription if you really like it. Pathrazer of Ulamog is pretty good, but for 11 mana, it just doesn't do enough for me. It That Betrays is good in the super mana ramp. Get all your shit out as soon as you can, but it doesn't have an enter the battlefield effect. Not good enough for me to run. So that is my 60. I love this deck tech. I love this deck. Like I said, this is probably the one that I didn't want to show y'all for the longest because I wanted to make sure that it's exactly how I wanted to run it. And this is exactly it. Have a blast with this deck tech. Later, homies.